I turn now to Sultan Barakat, Professor of Public Policy at Hamad bin Khalifa University. Sultan, you've been following the whole thing for us. I think James laid out that in terms of what's happening on the ground, it's the very, 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 very early stages. Israel hasn't even stopped bombing Gaza. But the thing that's interesting is everywhere you look, you have world leaders that are jumping on this and getting involved and trying to bolt this down so that this goes through. It starts with Donald Trump, but clearly the other countries have sensed this. You've got the Arab countries, you've got the wider Islamic powers, you've got a European Union meeting that we'll get to later in the show. Everybody is piling on to try and make this work.
Yes, well, everyone understands that if things were to happen, they can only happen with the blessing of the United States. And it is only the United States now that can exert the required pressure on Israel and on Netanyahu personally to make him adhere to the collective wish to stop this massacre. And of course, everyone feels optimistic because they can see the level to which Trump has invested himself and his reputation personally into this. Now, he cannot withdraw from this easily, particularly if he wants to really get the credit of being the global peacemaker and to go, full-heartedly towards the Nobel Peace Prize, etc. He has to make this succeed. And I think this is really the only leverage, if you like, that everyone is holding desperately to. Because we all know that Israel cannot be trusted. Netanyahu in particular cannot be trusted. They're playing behind being a state and democracy all the time. Like now, for example, the announcement was made a few hours ago. Until now, he's hiding behind that as a democracy, as a state structure, we have to go and approve it by the Security Cabinet. So a few more hours of bombing, a few more hours of pushing the Palestinians around. And he's trying to get away with it. But he knows that ultimately it is Trump and it's Trump's reputation on the line, I think, at the moment. And I pray that the Nobel Peace Prize will be watching this, the committee, and they will delay the award as much as possible to ensure that the ceasefire is...
So you're reminding us that this is the week of Nobel Prizes being awarded.
Yes.
The Peace Prize is tomorrow in less than 24 hours. And the families of the captives have actually asked the Nobel Committee to award the Peace Prize to Donald Trump. We know he wants it. Does any part of you think...
They need to give him high commendation. Fantastic man, wonderful person. Maybe next year, I think, to allow the possibility for this to be an extended ceasefire.
That's the thing, because we don't have peace.
Until now, we haven't seen any peace. There is no peace. And as we've just been saying, the Israeli government still hasn't even ceased fire as far as they're concerned. But rewarding him now, with all due respect, is really giving Netanyahu, yet again, a free hand the day after. And he will take it. And we know that Netanyahu is not pleased at all with this deal. He feels that this is a win for Hamas, and probably it is a win for Hamas because he has not been able to stop the war on his terms. He stopped the war on their terms from September last year. They came out a year ago saying, we'll give you all the captives in return for a ceasefire.
This looks a lot like the terms that he had laid out, which is that Israel had laid out, specifically the Israeli Prime Minister.
Because he wanted them to surrender. He wanted them to go defeated. He ended up having to sit with them face to face. Yesterday, the Israeli team and the Palestinians sat in the same room with Hamas and talked. That is not finishing off Hamas. That is negotiating with your enemy. This is a totally different way of ending a war. But regardless, I think the most important point now is the wonderful and great ego of Mr. Trump. We need to massage it and extend it as far as possible to allow this to become a real stepping stone towards some kind of peaceful solution in the area.
Sorry, I'm looking at the live shot that we have. I'm listening to what you're saying, but also looking at this. Okay, we've been talking, for 10 hours now, if not more, of this ceasefire agreement. This is the reality on the ground as we speak, which is that, as you also just told us, Sultan, Israel is still bombarding the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military officially says that they've pulled back to defensive lines. This is what pulling back to defensive line looks like. We just lost the feed, but They are still bombarding Gaza. And by the way, the famine, of course, is still going on in the Gaza Strip as we speak, because no humanitarian aid currently is going in. So that will only happen once the deal starts to be implemented, and we're possibly days away from that. Noor O'Day, our correspondent in Amman, was telling us that would start to happen on Monday, potentially, according to the timeline. You were saying everyone needs to massage Donald Trump's ego. They're doing that. As you spoke, I was just thinking all the statements that we have got, whether it's from the UN, whether it's from regional countries, whether it's from the mediators, whether it's from the wider Islamic world, everybody is doing the whole thank you, Donald Trump.
Yes, which is good. We're supporting all this. It's fantastic. But I think the Nobel Peace Prize should be held back until a proper peace.
Right, hold off until there's actual peace.
Hold off, delayed. They must come up with some indigenous, intelligent way of presenting it. But giving it to him immediately now or announcing it, I think, will really give Netanyahu a free hand in the days to come.
All right. Well, so watch this space, because that announcement will be made less than 24 hours from now. So we'll be covering that tomorrow, of course. Sultan Barakat, thank you very much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.